Welcome to Flash Fantasy. Today, Norris and I are here to break down the AFC South Division and help you win your leagues in a flash. And now let's go to the Tennessee Titans, where our resident expert Norris can start to fangirl over them a little bit. So let's start with the quarterback position, Mr. Ryan Tannehill, or as Norris so elegantly named him, Ryan Tannehill. Because he wins games. He came in last year. He took over from Marcus Mariota halfway through the year, and since then the Titans just took an uptick and started exceeding in what everybody thought they would do. Ryan Tannehill took that team all the way to the NFC. I think the NFC divisional championship,
AFC.
right? AFC.
Yeah, we lost to the great Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Yeah.
Norris's second team that he's in love with, but yeah. So I mean, I think Ryan Tannehill can continue to produce. They paid him a lot of money this year, in my opinion, a lot of money, and I think he's going to make good on that. I think he had a great year last year, and the thing is, with Ryan Tannehill, he fills the role of like being that third down passer because the first two downs they're handing it off to Derrick Henry or whoever, maybe even Deontay Evans, who might take some downs here and there, but they're handing it off to him, and then they need Ryan Tannehill to make those major third down passes, which he fills completely. He fills that role because he's a reliable, accurate passer. I mean, in his career, he made, last year at least, he made some really tough passes, and again, he only played total of 12 games, and I don't think he started till halfway through the year. But he had 286 attempts for 201 completions. So you're saying an 85 missed completions, and some of them, half of them probably aren't even his fault. So that's a great completion rate. And then he had 22 touchdowns with only 12 games. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome to see. And not only that, but he does have some feet on him. He can move around, but I wouldn't necessarily label him a mobile quarterback. But let's not forget, he did have 4 rushing touchdowns last year. 4, which is half of what Lamar did, and with barely any attempts compared to what Lamar did. So overall, Ryan Tannehill, I think, could be poised to have a great year. They upgraded their offensive line a little bit. And overall, I think with the skill players that they do with A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry and a little, like, I would put it as on you guys' radar, Jonnu Smith. I think he's going to be right there in the bottom of the top tight ends, but we'll talk about him a little bit more as we continue. What are your takes on your favorite team so far with Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah, so Ryan Tannehill, I mean, and also we were one game away from going to the Super Bowl, so we were in the championship, the conference championship. But with Ryan Tannehill, watching him in Miami, I was like, wow, like, what is Miami doing? Like, they're not good at all. Ryan Tannehill is inconsistent. I was not too harsh of a critic, but I definitely did not expect what he did last year for the Titans. And I think that is a big testament to Mike Vrabel and his approach to this team. He loves this team. He loves his players. And whoever he brings in, he makes sure that he utilizes them in a way that they can succeed. And that's exactly what we saw with Ryan Tannehill. Last year, he finished 22nd. Again, he played from week 6 on throughout the end, finished 22nd, and 28th in passing yards. That would be one of the, I guess, issues or concerns that I would have in regard to him being the quarterback, because with him being, finishing 16th in passing touchdowns with 22 touchdowns, even though the numbers are not pretty, when we watch what he does, he's very balanced. He's super athletic. He can obviously run the ball, and he was effective with making those crucial plays with his legs. So I think that with Ryan Tannehill this year, he's going to do well. We're going to see exactly who Ryan Tannehill is for a full year. Last year he played, most of the season, but I want to be able to say that Ryan Tannehill can carry a team. Honestly, he doesn't even have to carry the team because that's what Derrick Henry is for. But I want to be able to give him full credit for starting out the season and going through the ups and the downs that he may have, but seeing the Titans end up hopefully in another AFC Conference Championship position. So also, you are absolutely correct on Jonnu Smith because in this offseason, we've seen Ryan Tannehill and Jonnu Smith work out, and they've been putting in work. Jonnu Smith is a beast in the gym. He had 35 catches for 450. That's not right. 439 yards and 3 touchdowns in Jonnu Smith. So I think that he is going to be a good piece, a good element as to why Ryan Tannehill will have a good season.
Yeah, for sure. I think Ryan Tannehill, Jonnu Smith bonding and getting that chemistry is going to be even better because Jonnu Smith is a great athletic talent. The thing with tight ends is they always take a couple years to grow in the league before they start taking off. And I think this might be the year that Jonnu Smith does take that leap. And I would love to see it with Darren Waller now being, or not Darren Waller. Who is that guy? Who's their old tight end? He's old news now.
Oh, you want to be disrespectful. No, you're going to remember his name.
I'm going to remain Delaney Walker.
Yes, there we go.
I know his name. I was just messing up. Anyway, with Delaney Walker now being gone, and I think he's retired, right? I mean, he's not coming back I haven't seen him with any other league.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they have a hole to fill in the offense. And to be honest, Jonnu Smith filled that hole last year. He's going to continue to fill the hole this year, and that's just another one of the offensive weapons that we're going to elaborate on later. But let's talk about the one guy that's going to carry the team, and that's Derrick Henry. I mean, he could probably literally carry the whole team. He's a beast. I've seen a lot of his workouts. Again, we recommend if you have a guy on your fantasy team, follow him on social media. See what he's up to. Maybe if you just have an idea of what you want to see, what he does, follow him on Facebook. All it just takes is a click of a button. You should also follow us on social media. Anyways, we can sit here and just fall in love with Derrick Henry all over again, but let's make it obvious where his position is, and he is a rushing down, he is the 1, 2, 3 option for Tennessee Titans as a whole. Mike Vrabel loves him. Mike Vrabel puts him into that position to start the game and rush down their throats and hopefully win the game with defense and maybe make those key passes to A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith. Now, you noticed I left Derrick Henry's name out of that list because Derrick Henry is not the receiving back. I think last year he had, 28 targets? I'll give you guys the exact number right now.
24 targets.
24, thank you. He had 24 targets, only 18 receptions, and 206 receiving yards. But let's look at receiving touchdowns. We know that Derrick Henry is the red zone option when it comes to just running it down, but he had 2 receiving touchdowns. So, I mean, overall, he could get more work in the end zone when it comes to receiving. He's going to be wide open because who in the right mind would try and get in front of that train of a man, Derrick Henry? But he had 16 rushing touchdowns alone in the 2019 season. He had over 1,500 yards and 303 carries. So I think, like we talked about in our top 10 running backs, he's going to be phenomenal this year. I would just put him a little bit lower than top 5. Myself, he fills a great role, but he just doesn't get those receptions that everybody wants to see. But Norris, here's your chance. Talk about your boy.
Yeah, so I really think Derrick Henry, he'll probably finish second this year in 2020 behind Christian McCaffrey. That's just my instincts talking to me. But based on the numbers, I could make a case. All right, so over 300 carries. And Tennessee, they used their third-round draft pick to, draft a running back, Darrington Evans, from Appalachian State. And so there's obviously he's a guy that's going to be a great supporting role. He's not too different from a Deion Lewis type of situation. But regardless, 303 carries, 1,540 yards, 16 rushing touchdowns, 5 yards per attempt. Yes, he didn't have, receiving yards or receptions to really gloat about. But what I can gloat about is that he had a passing touchdown. I can say that. And also one thing that I love about the Titans, and honestly, we're kind of late to the game because Derrick Henry, before the second half of 2018 season, we didn't use him in the way that we us fans expected him to be used since from his rookie year. I think he should have been, but I'm grateful that he wasn't because he's not beat down, right now because, yeah, that would have been bad. But what I am saying is that in the two playoff games in the first two playoff games that we saw last year, he carried the ball like 30 times. That's a beautiful thing to see. That's how we want to see Derrick Henry get used because when he carries the ball 20 plus times, don't quote me on the stat, but 90% of the time we're winning that game. It's going to be tough to stop the Tennessee Titans if we run the ball effectively. Plus we have A.J. Brown out there, building his skills, and we're starting to see like Ryan Tannehill get comfortable in that offense. So I just think with Derrick Henry, he's going to absolutely be he's going to be the crucial piece as to why the Tennessee Titans wins the division. If he doesn't have a season, I won't put him up there in 1,500 range, but if he doesn't have a season where he's scoring 14, 15, 16 touchdowns and carrying the ball for about 280 plus times throughout the year, it's going to be tough for us to be a playoff team worth, I guess, being afraid of. We're not intimidating without Derrick Henry. If you take Derrick Henry out of the backfield, we're back to looking how we did in 2016 and 15. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's where you had the upgrade with Ryan Tannehill. He's obviously, I would say, a better passer, a more accurate throw than Marcus Mariota. And I think he effectively uses his skill players like A.J. Brown, Corey Davis. But like you said, I think overall, Derrick Henry, he's a beast. Fantasy-wise, he's worth taking, and I would say he's worth taking in the late of the first round, maybe beginning of the second round. But overall, he's going to be that RB1 on your team. He can fulfill that role pretty easily. And if you have him and another player let's say Zeke or Alvin Kamara or even Christian McCaffrey, you're looking really good. So with Derrick Henry, let's move on to the wide receivers. And that's A.J. Brown coming into his sophomore year. He did great as a rookie. Today I was watching highlight tapes, and I was like, man, I wonder if I can go trade for him. I wonder if I could. I was like, nah, he's not a guy. To me, he's going to be a great player, but he's not a guy that I would put at my wide receiver 1 and feel comfortable. That's my take on him. I just don't. I would feel he's more comfortable as a wide receiver 2. And again, we'd love to show you our teams, and we will have that opportunity, but he doesn't fit that role on my team. Anyways, I would definitely go trade for him if you have that that wide receiver 2 position you need to fill. I would say he's a high-end wide receiver 2. He has a lot of upside, only being in his rookie year. So in keeper and dynasty leagues, he can be a great addition to your team and continue to grow in that age that he's with. And now he has Ryan Tannehill. And I think overall Ryan Tannehill is a step up. And to look at it, if you're playing in a standard league, A.J. Brown is one of the best guys to go get. But in a PPR league, like we usually stat for, he finished 21st. And just to let you guys know, standard league he did finish ninth overall, which is great. But PPR he finished 21st. He had 84 targets and 52 receptions, and he had a little bit over 1,000 yards in the year. He had 8 touchdowns, which we love to see from a wide receiver. And now they even give him some rushing attempts to kind of give him those little wow, why can't I think of the name? I literally just did this on Madden like the other day. They give him, what is it called?
The reverse?
I guess like that's I'm not thinking the right word. I'll cut all this out. But
I don't know what word you're thinking of.
yeah, they give him the reverses behind the quarterback and let him run it in. He even had a rushing touchdown last year, but he doesn't get those very often. He only had 3 attempts last year. But let's focus on his role. With 84 targets, I can only see that going up with Ryan Tannehill filling up the whole year. Plus, he did fill the role as wide receiver one last year. The number one, the best option on the team, in my opinion, when it came to receiving. And I think the only person to maybe take away targets from him would be Jonnu Smith. But other than that, they didn't go and draft a lot of wide receivers. They didn't go and draft another tight end. They really stuck with who they have with AJ Brown, Corey Davis, and Adam Humphries. So I really don't see anybody taking that away from AJ Brown being the number one wide receiver, which we love to see. His speed, his agility, he makes people drop before they can even think about touching him. And overall, he's a great wide receiver to fill on your fantasy team. Other than him, like I said, Corey Davis, Adam Humphries at the wide receiver position, they're definitely not worth drafting in redraft leagues. Maybe in dynasty leagues or deep dive leagues, you can get Corey Davis or Adam Humphries. But honestly, try it. I think there's other position or other guys in better positions that I would go after.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I do believe that. I think it's obvious. AJ Brown is the number one guy out there in Tennessee with 84 targets and 52 receptions. He had 1,051 yards and 8 touchdowns with a 61% catch rate. If you add a few more, 30, 40 more targets, that is very, very, very similar to who we mentioned earlier, DJ Chark. Very similar. And, it's surprising because A.J. Brown is 6 feet tall, but he looks so much bigger than what he is on the field. And when you see him going up for the ball and making those big plays, one thing about the Tennessee Titans is that the Titans have to grow in actually targeting him. The highest that he had was 13 targets in week 15 against Houston. It's a divisional game. Obviously it's competitive and whatnot, so they put him on the agenda a bit higher than typically. But, he had 5 100-yard games last year. And as a rookie, that is beyond impressive, in my opinion. So when you look at, like, the scheme that the Titans have on offense and the talent that he has coming out of, Ole Miss, I think that this year he's going to have another 1,000-yard season. I think that he surpasses 100 targets, which will probably lead to about, 84, 85 receptions on the year. And 8 touchdowns is probably where we're looking at as well, because, again, like you mentioned, you have Jonnu Smith, you have Corey Davis and Adam Humphries as the next, I guess, the hierarchy of targeting. And honestly, when we signed Adam Humphries, I was like, what are we doing? Like, we might as well just wait until the draft comes around and get somebody. But, I don't even want to talk about Adam Humphries because he's not a relevant piece, honestly. Corey Davis upsets me. You want to talk about a guy that we drafted too high and absolutely does nothing for it. Now, I give credit to Marcus Mariota for not doing his job at the greatest level as well, because he and Corey Davis were supposed to be our, boom players and whatnot. And, big respect to you, Marcus Mariota. And I enjoyed watching them play. I actually made a lot of cases and had a lot of debates of the Marcus Mariota versus Jameis Winston conversations. And I backed up my boy. And the numbers, it looks, it depends on what angle you look at the numbers when you're talking about that conversation, because a 33 touchdown and 30 interception quarterback shouldn't be better than anybody. But it's Jameis Winston, and he's a weirdo and gets things done in a weird way. So whatever, that's a side conversation. But back to A.J. Brown, I think that he's going to have a phenomenal year this year. Again, rookie season that we saw last year, and he produced at a high level. And he definitely gets those big chunk plays. He's not in the last segment, I mentioned contested catches. His percentage is at 30%. That's, so it's not beautiful, but again, we watch the tape, we watch the film, we watch the games. We know what he can do, and I think that he will continue to do that at a high level in Tennessee.
Yeah, I think so too. Overall, great player, and I love seeing Norris get heated about Marcus Mariota versus Jameis Winston. Go ahead and leave a comment below. Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston. Love to see those comments, and I love to rub them in Norris's face. I'm always on the side. I love Jameis Winston a little bit more than Marcus Mariota. So, yeah, we go back and forth on that. But back to wrap it up for our wide receivers. A.J. Brown, where are you taking A.J. Brown, Norris, in your redraft leagues?
So A.J. Brown, I am taking at a safe third or fourth round. I'm not going to put him at the highest level. But I think, again, in a redraft league, I think that he's a good late third, mid fourth type of receiver. You're going to get your values worth. Obviously, like I said, he's going to be the number one guy, and he is the number one guy. You don't have to worry about Derrick Henry taking any targets away from A.J. Brown on a substantial level. 8 touchdowns, guys. And honestly, when we look at – I'll give you just another side stat. When we look at the drops where he ranked, he was 5th, among drop passes. So it's not something that you necessarily need to worry about. I think that A.J. Brown is worth the pick in the late third, early mid fourth. But even then, I can make a case for multiple guys, because honestly, guys like Mike Williams, I have on my radar, and I'm like, do I want to? Even though he's not going to be the number one out there in the Chargers, but he's just a big guy. He's a huge target, and I like Mike Williams. So, it's pieces like that where I kind of go back and forth. But yeah.
All right, so let's play a little game of Would You Rather. I'm going to list out some of my receivers. You tell me if you'd rather have them or A.J. Brown. Would you rather A.J. Brown or Allen Robinson?
Oh, man. I can't. No, I'm not doing that. I'm going with A.J. Brown. Simply because of quarterbacks. I can't put Trubisky over. Trubisky is in a whole nother world. It's something about the Bears quarterbacks. I think Jay Cutler may have cursed the quarterbacks in anybody who's coming in nowadays, because I can't go with Mitch Trubisky on that one.
Okay, I can kind of understand that. Would you rather A.J. Brown or Stephon Diggs?
Stephon Diggs.
Okay.
Stephon Diggs, yes.
These are all players that have been drafted around the same ADP, and most people are taking A.J. Brown over Stephon Diggs. I'm going with Stephon Diggs, but would you rather Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown?
Okay. I got to go with Keenan. Because, again, my heart says A.J. Brown. I already made my heart decision earlier. So I'm going to use my mind and go with Keenan Allen on this one, because the Chargers are an interesting team,
Right.
The quarterback situation, I don't know that it's going to be a lot of just throw up and get it type of situations, and Keenan is going to be there for it.
Okay. So and again, people are taking A.J. Brown over Keenan Allen right now.
I
Here's
can see that. I kind of agree with it, but it's a slight edge.
So some people that are a little bit lower, and that might surprise you, but let's see which one you take. Would you rather A.J. Brown or Tyler Lockett?
From a fantasy perspective, I feel like you have to take Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, I think so as well. The only downside with Tyler Lockett is, again, the Seahawks are in a similar position. They're one of the very heavy rush teams. Last one, A.J. Brown, Robert Woods.
That one I'm going AJ Brown.
Okay, yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Me
Yeah.
too. He's the number one option. I think Robert Woods has some really great consistency, but I think A.J. Brown fills that consistency role as well. So I think solid overall. Yeah, people are taking A.J. Brown around the end of the fourth, mid third, anywhere from there. Personally, I'm waiting a little bit longer. I think there's a lot of depth at wide receiver this year, where I can get A.J. Brown probably fourth or fifth round, like you said. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's solid overall.
When you look at some of those guys too, even with the example of Stephon Diggs, of course our memory is going back to Vikings, but with him being in a situation now with, Josh Allen as his quarterback, I'm kind of wary on how to rank Stephon Diggs, because you still got Cole Beasley out there getting targets. And he's someone that I think a lot of people sleep on, but he is a good piece in that offense. Now, I'm not saying from a fantasy perspective going get him, but I do think that they utilize him in a way where he's a key role in their offense. So just taking into consideration, I guess, everyone, like when you look at these receivers, look at the context. Don't get so caught up in the name, because Stephon Diggs is really good. And he's a great route runner and whatnot and has beautiful cleats. But you got to look at his quarterback situation.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't just pick somebody over their cleats, guys. That's
Right.
bad fantasy right there. So yeah, that's all for the wide receiver position for Tennessee. Let's talk about. We don't really talk about tight ends a whole lot unless there's somebody to talk about. And this guy is somebody to talk about. Jonnu Smith, very athletic, filled the role last year when Delaney Walker was injured and couldn't play throughout the season. I think Jonnu Smith is. I love Jonnu Smith. I think he's a great talent. I think he really fills a role, and I think he fills that role in like a top 10 tight end. I think he's worth very late round draft pick. I'm not saying I wouldn't draft him probably till the 10th, 12th round, to be honest. But I think he's a value player that you can get on your team, and he'll continue to produce. Last year, now the tight end role is a very heavy drop off between tiers. But last year he did finish 20th. He played all 16 games. He had 44 targets, 35 receptions for 439 yards, and he did have 3 touchdowns. I think he gets that a little bit more of a bump this year. I think Jonnu Smith really takes off into this year. They're now again, the Tennessee Titans are a rush heavy team. They're not going to be passing a whole lot. They're 31st in pass attempts last year. So if you can get them pretty cheap, I would take them. But other than that, I wouldn't be going crazy for them.
Yeah, and I can definitely understand that because it is the tight end position. So when we talk about tight ends, it's like, oh yeah, I can tolerate Jonnu Smith, but I do really like his game style, his gameplay. He is a big guy in the way that he plays, because he's 6'3", 248. But the thing is he's first. He's first in contested catch rate. So 85% of the time that I throw that ball up, he's coming down with it. And that is something that is encouraging. Obviously, we love, seeing tight ends go run a seam route and come down with it, and he's just out of there. So I think that with Jonnu Smith, with his work ethic, that's a super convincing, I guess, element of the conversation that I have to consider. Because guys, when I tell you that he's been putting in work this offseason, He's been in the gym and going in. So we're going to see Jonnu Smith be used in the blocking game more. And we're going to be able to see him get open as a result of those things, those chip blocks and going out for a flat or whatever the case may be. So I think that with Ryan Tannehill, sometimes he gets in those situations where he has to get out of the pocket. Again, Jonnu Smith is probably going to be right in front of his face and open and able to get those 6-yard, catches. That can lead to a big game, having 7 receptions for 89 yards and a touchdown. If you're getting that on your tight end, spot, you definitely want to have somebody like that. So, but again, the targets, not great. He had 44 targets last year. I think that has to go up. But every year since he's been on the squad, it's gone from 30 to 31 to 44. So I think we understand on an offensive level who we have. And obviously, like Jason mentioned, him having more targets as a result of Delaney Walker no longer being with us. He didn't die, but he's not with us anymore. So, yeah. But I think I think Jonnu Smith is going to be someone worth getting in your late round drafts. And if he's on your waiver wire, pick him up. Pick him up because you never know what can happen from the tight end position. So, yeah.
Yeah, he could definitely fill that role too, kind of putting in a couple of points that you need. He's not going to be that boom guy, but he could definitely be consistent. That's where I like Jonnu Smith.
Yep.
But I think maybe he feels that he can fill that role and jump ahead in these tight end rankings. But yeah, so that's the gist of the Tennessee Titans. Anything you want to add overall?
They're going to be first or second in that division. Tennessee is definitely going to be first or second. I don't know if I can think my way out of that. I think that if we do get first or second and we end up in a playoff position, if we're running the ball effectively, you can forget about it. If we see the Chiefs again, we got them.
For the rest of the AFC South Breakdown, make sure you subscribe or follow our podcast so you can see when the next episode is coming straight to you. Or you can check out our YouTube channel. We'll be uploading videos every single day.